Now, in commemoration of International Men's Day, joining us on the news is Sanmi Johnson Ibidapo, a psychologist and program officer with Human Development Initiative in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on News Now at this time.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
All right, so this year's theme is helping men and boys. Can you help us put this into context?
Well, thank you so very much. Generally, the African society is patriarchal. I mean, that means it's key towards favoring the men, the detriment of the women. Over the past 2 decades or thereabouts, there's been serious campaigns, talking about the rights of women, how to recruit women, to develop women, how women can achieve their full potentials and all that. And so you will see that there's been a trend of focusing more on the woman and the girl child, and then the men and the boys are neglected. Now, this goes to say that it's important for us to know that most of the challenges that women have, most of the issues that women face, men and boys are part of it. And so this means that if a boy is neglected, he is released into the same society as a girl. They get to meet. Every boy that is not trained, that is not taught, that is not helped, becomes a problem to the society. And the girls that have been helped, that have been trained, that have been supported, become the victims of such boys. So you see, the context is we need to balance up our accounts by ensuring that both boys and girls, men and women, are supported. Boys also need help, just as the men need support. So this is the context in which we are talking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And you brought us to the time, you said earlier on that there was a time that women were left out from a lot of sectors of training, especially in society. Now, I want to look at the psychological effect of the men or the boys being left out in major areas of the society.
Oh, yes. Because the focus had been on women and on girls for quite a long time, boys are just left to be on their own. They're hanging. You see, and so the problem of this social exclusion has affected the psyche of most boys. They just feel they can do and undo. They just feel they can, because there's no proper guidance. Absolutely. If you look at a family of 5, for instance, where you have 2 boys and 3 girls, the girl begins to learn about, womanly rules. She begins to role play as early as possible. She's shown the ways to do things. But it's not the same for boys. So this leaving them to survive on their own has led many young boys into several vices, which also comes back to haunt the society at large. So basically, the psychology of exclusion, the psychology of letting the boy grow on his own, discovering his own path by himself, for himself, without any guidance, has caused a lot of boys to get involved in things that have damaged them. I stay around the place, for instance, where we see a lot of young boys who begin to engage in drugs, and then there are no father figures in many of the boys' lives, to really guide them and give them proper orientation about what life should be all about. So this psychology of exclusion is one of the major challenges we've had in dealing with our boys. For instance, we found out from our personal research in HDI that a lot of boys do not really know who to talk to when they have challenges. A lot of boys just begin to, their life is basically what you call guesswork. So they get through life, they get to choose their own path. Many of them are left excluded, they are neglected, and then unfortunately, they become, prey in the hands of many older category youths and, younger men who begin to disciple them into some of these atrocities that we see all around us today. So the basic psychology is the psychology of exclusion, not being groomed, not being properly taught, not being shown the way and guided in the right way they should go. Thank you.
And still talking about the psychological exclusion. Now, they say men should be allowed to express their emotions through crying. I mean, you're a psychologist. You've given us a lot of the effects that this has on the mental well-being of men. I also wonder that this stereotype, has it been placed by the men themselves? Because sometimes, not necessarily the women, the men have that notion that they should be a man, they should not cry. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's true that, it's a stereotype in the African society, but men should be allowed to cry. However, the context really depends, and it's really important. For instance, if you are the head of a family, that is already a leadership role. You're supposed to be the head of a family. You're supposed to lead the family, strengthen everybody in the family. However, for you to express your emotion is not wrong. However, the place, the point, the position, the area where you express your emotion is very important. If, for instance, as a man, the man of the house, the family leader, you are leading a family, you have a wife, you have children, you broke down in the midst of your family and you begin to cry. What happens? Everybody loses hope. So the psychology of men expressing emotion has to be balanced. So if you want to express yourself, find a private place. You want to cry, cry. You want to scream, scream. But that should not be in the presence of, people that are vulnerable, who are supposed to take a cue from, learning from you, being groomed. So a man can cry. But where does he cry? That becomes very important. If he begins to break down in the presence of his wife and his children and begins to cry like a baby, then the children also become confused that he's crying like a baby. So there is this, very, very little balance that we need to strike. As much as we encourage them to also express their emotions, where they do the expression or the expressing of the emotion is very, very critical as well. So as a young man, as a young boy can cry.
Okay.
Boys cry all the time. However, when men begin to cry, then there's a problem. However, it's not supposed to be a problem that a man should cry. But where the man does the crying becomes very critical. So as a man, you are supposed to express your emotions, no stereotype about that, but where you do it is very critical. Go into your room, go anywhere to express.
All right. Ibidapo, so we will definitely continue to have these conversations because now you're emphasizing on the fact that they should cry, but where they should cry is also another question. We'll definitely have conversations on this on News Central TV as we celebrate the men's achievement and, of course, the International Men's Day. Thank you so much for joining us on News Now. Thank you.